into the party wagon and hold on to your pizza. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Epic Tales from the Sewers. I am your host, Justin, with my co-host, Mr. Eric Will. How you doing, Eric?
Doing fantastic. How you doing there, Justin?
I'm doing great, man. It's a great time to be here. We have a very special guest today. He is a writer, a director, an actor, and most recently, the writer of Teenage Ninja to Mutant Turtle, becoming the Reel Raphael, Mr. Kenn Scott. How you doing, Ken?
Hey, guys. Justin, Eric, it's good to be here with you. This is going to be fun.
Absolutely. Thanks for joining us. I know we were talking a little bit before, and I'm super excited because we're really big Ninja Turtles fans. Having just finished your book, there's like so much in here that's good. And just to all the listeners, like the way it's written is hilarious because it's like these stories that he puts in there in the way. It's just like you can picture it. You're like, oh no, he didn't. It's like these little stories. It's like, yeah, I really shouldn't go out drinking, but I did. And if you can picture Raphael going out drinking with Toka, from Ninja Turtles Secret of the Ooze, that's kind of like where this is going. And I'm like, man, this is my kind of book.
And Toka can drink.
Yeah, that's what it's saying. You were saying in the book here. So I guess the most obvious question to ask you up front is, what's Vanilla Ice like?
Man, Vanilla Ice. First of all, I give Vanilla Ice a lot of credit. He was kind of, and dare I say it, he was in the position that Eminem was in much later on. But Vanilla Ice was the first. He was kind of a big crossover guy. I mean, when he worked on Ninja Turtles 2, Secret of the Ooze, he celebrated his 21st or his 22nd birthday. I can't remember which one. I think it was his 21st birthday on the set. And he was already famous for Ice Ice Baby at 21 years of age. So you can imagine what a crazy position to put this guy in.
He's dating Madonna.
Well, when he showed up on the set, kind of two things went awry at first. One was he showed up on set with an entourage, and I didn't know what an entourage was. I had never seen one before. And he showed up with all these kind of backup dancers that are in the movie with him, and then other people, and I mean everybody around him. And then they threw a surprise party for him for his birthday or whatever. So he was kind of walking around with all the sort of sass that you might walk around with as a 21-year-old with an entourage and a hit record and all this. So he wasn't doing anything really to endear himself to anybody around. The second thing that kind of went awry a little bit in the connection with Mr. Van Winkle was the producers treated him like a rock star, which he was. Just took care of him, whatever he wanted, whatever you need. Can we get you lunch? You want a chair with a bigger pad on it? Whatever you want. Conversely, the four of us who were playing the Turtles, the Actor Turtles, man, we were doing hot, sweaty ass work 12 hours a day, and we had to fight tooth and nail just to get any comfort from the producers. We had to fight tooth and nail just to get a trailer that had air conditioning in it that we could all go sit in just to cool off during all this work. So when we saw the way they were treating Vanilla Ice, it created a little anxiety for us as the Ninja Turtles. So we didn't enjoy his company too much, but we never really got to know him that well. When we finally got to work with him, there's this scene in the club, and you got all the Ninja Turtles, and they're all in their costumes, and the room is filled with smoke to give it this kind of certain atmosphere, and it's hot, sweaty work in those suits, and he's doing the ninja rap, and we're all dancing and doing our stuff, and the guy cannot remember the words to his own song.
That's freaking crazy.
And, yeah, we had to stop and start so many times, and when you're in a turtle suit, you're wearing 60 pounds of stuff, and it's only getting heavier the more you sweat in it and it absorbs it like a sponge. The more that went on, you can imagine the more aggravated you get when you're like, come on, just do your song. So there was a lot of stuff there that created a sort of a mixed reaction of working with Vanilla Ice. To this day, though, it's one of his most popular songs ever, the Ninja Rap. He plays it to this day, and I have friends of mine that travel around with him and dress as the Ninja Turtles and do the basketball
kidding.
with them.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, he's really had a spiritual transformation, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, when you go through it, you go through it, right? And he did, for sure. He was not the first choice of musical guest to be in Secret of the Ooze. When the producers were trying to get a commercial tie-in, they reached out to, I think it was SGI Records. I may have that name wrong, but I think it was SGI.
I think you're right.
SGI. And they were looking for an artist. The first artist that was proposed to be in Ninja Turtles 2 was Wilson Phillips, which was a trio of girl singers from the late 80s and early 90s. One of them was the daughter of Brian Wilson from
Carney Wilson.
Yep. Yeah, Carney Wilson.
Yep.
And they had an amazing hit. I think it was called Hold On, but I'm not really sure about that. They had an amazing hit. Well, it turned out that Wilson Phillips was not really a thematic fit. It wasn't on brand with the Ninja Turtles, who were from New York and in this environment. So Vanilla Ice was on that same label. And that's how ultimately Vanilla Ice got moved into that slot, because that was a better fit for the turtle sensibility.
Definitely. It's so funny because like you look back on it now and I don't know how, the future will view Vanilla Ice, but I remember I was in 4th grade at the time and it was like, that was the biggest thing that was going on. Like between that and like, maybe if they got the New Kids on the Block, that would have been the only other thing that would have been as big at the time. So it was smart. It was a smart move. So, but, so the interesting thing I noticed about this is from reading your book, you talk a lot about being a ninja and wanting to be a ninja on screen. You were an actual ninja, though, because a ninja is someone who is a martial arts practitioner and uses stealth, to find out secrets and things like that. And I'm reading through the book and I start chuckling and my fiance goes, what are you laughing about? I'm like, he just stole the script. I'm like, he just went in and ninja'd, and stole the script to the movie, And I was just thinking, I'm like, this is friggin' brilliant, because the entire book, that has this whole section on Ken in, the first Ninja Turtles movies, he's just trying to get more airtime, more screen time, trying to get that SAG card. And here he is, he's got the keys to the kingdom and he knows what's coming. And I'm like, this is friggin' brilliant, man.
Well, it's interesting. What most people don't know that's in the book is, yes, I portrayed Raphael in the movie, but I didn't start as Raphael. I started as one of the foot soldiers.
And you did a couple of them, didn't you?
Yeah, well, I really started, almost at the lowest rung, and I use that term loosely, the lowest rung that you can as an on-screen performer. I was hired originally as what was called a special abilities extra for $75 a day. And, an extra is somebody who walks across the background of the pizza parlor or the bus station in a movie, right? Well, when you're playing one of the Foot Clan, who's the bad guys working for the Shredder, you've got to be a martial artist because you have to get in fights with the turtles and get beat up and move around like you know what you're doing. So you had to have a special ability. So we were special abilities extras. They shot the movie in North Carolina and they brought in all the major players, including the stunt guys that were doing all the fighting for the Ninja Turtles. And they were all from Hong Kong for the most part, except for Ernie Reyes Jr., who was Donatello. But it was all these amazing world-class martial artists that were doing that. And in order to have bad guys for them to beat up, because they were filming in North Carolina, they put out a casting call to all the karate schools around the North Carolina and Eastern Seaboard area. So karate practitioners from all the tournaments came in from all over North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. Some even came from far as Chicago and New York to hear about these auditions. They came and they auditioned for legendary stunt coordinator and fight choreographer Pat Johnson, who worked on the original Karate Kid movies. And Pat was in charge of hiring basically 20 martial artists to be the foot soldiers, most of them to be in the background, and a team of 5 to be the premier guys, top martial artists that did all the stuff. Well, when I auditioned for Pat Johnson and did all my martial arts, because I've been doing it since I was 12 years old, I got hired to be one of the 20 martial artists, just any old martial artist. So when I was told to report to work, I showed up and I saw that he had a couple of other guys that he was using all the time. Oh, every time we got to choreograph this fight. It was before we were shooting the movie. It was all during rehearsals. So we had our own soundstage. We're doing rehearsals. He's picking out different foot soldiers and matching them with the stunt guys from the Turtles. We're choreographing the fights. And I wasn't really getting a lot of, play. He wasn't paying attention to me a lot. And then it turns out I got lucky. There was this one stunt where a guy gets hit on a skateboard and none of the guys could do it. And I stepped up and I sort of made myself heard and I said, hey, I think I can do that stunt. And I ended up showing him in the rehearsals that I could do it. And I did it so well that caught Pat Johnson's eye and the choreographers from Hong Kong. So from that point forward, I became pretty much the premier foot soldier that you see in the movie. Certainly there's a lot of other guys, Paul Bean and Tom DeWeer, who do some great work. But when you watch the movie, for people that know it really well, there's a scene in the first movie when all the foot soldiers invade April O'Neil's apartment right after they throw Raphael through the skylight and he's unconscious. In that scene, I am the foot soldier that's crashing through the skylight after Raphael. I'm swinging on the rope and crashing through the windows. I'm calling for the battle axes. Basentos, now! I'm chopping the battle axes. I'm doing a lot of the main featured fight gags you see, including probably one of my favorite scenes in the movie when Michelangelo goes, oh, a fellow chucker, eh? And they do the nunchucks. I'm the guy in black doing the nunchucks against Michelangelo. So just from that one moment, I got to do all this stuff as a foot soldier, but I was still a special abilities extra doing all these things. And I knew that I wanted to be an actor. And the most important thing a young actor could try to get, besides talent and acting classes, is a Screen Actors Guild card. And there's a long story about it being a catch-22. You have to go through you have to jump through all these hoops to get your Screen Actors Guild card. But once you have a union card, then you can work on television and movies and all that. So you got to go through stuff to get it. Well, one of the ways to get it is you got to get hired to be in a movie. Well, they won't hire you to be in a movie unless you have a Screen Actors Guild card, but you can't get a Screen Actors Guild card without getting hired in a movie. So you have to find a director or a producer that's willing to do extra paperwork and hire you for a movie. And SAG will be like, okay, we'll let him in because you did all that extra paperwork for the movie. So it came time to do a scene where one of the foot soldiers talk. And Pat Johnson came to me, asked me if I would do the part based on certain circumstances. And he told me that would get me my Screen Actors Guild card. So I went from being an extra to shooting the scene where I'm calling for the battle axes when you hear my voice, Basentos. And I actually shot a whole other scene about turning Donatello into turtle soup, but it was cut from the movie, probably because of my terrible acting. And so that got me my Screen Actors Guild card. So that was another level up from being an extra. But then early on in the movie, right after we got started pretty much, the stunt guy from Hong Kong who was Raphael, there's the scene in Central Park where Casey Jones hits him with a cricket bat and he saws through the air and lands in a trash can on his head. When they did that, the stunt guy broke his nose and he couldn't wear the turtle suit anymore. So the director, the producer, and the stunt coordinator were going crazy. They were losing money. They had to replace that Raphael. Well, apparently I had done well enough as a foot soldier that they came to me and said, if you can fit in the Raphael suit, you're going to be the new Raphael. So I went to the creature shop. I squeezed into the Raphael suit and made myself fit where this little skinny guy from Hong Kong was originally. And I became the new Raphael. So all in the course of like a month of rehearsal and then into shooting, I went from being an extra to being what's known in the credits as talkative foot number 2. And then I became Raphael. So that's so for those that don't know, that's what I did in Ninja Turtles. And then in
That's
Ninja
awesome.
Turtles number 2, I became what's called the Actor Turtle, where I wore the Raphael suit with all the electronic servos and motors in it, and somebody else, Ho-Sung Pak, was the stunt double for Raphael.
So when you're doing the acting turtle, right? Are you saying the lines in the scene?
Yeah, basically what happens is there's 4 guys that play each turtle, right? There's an actor turtle who wears the costume with all the servos and motors in it. Then there's a puppeteer off camera who is basically working with the Jim Henson organization, and they're actually operating all those servos and motors from a remote control. And then there's a 3rd guy that does all the action and fighting for the turtle. And then finally, at the end, when the movie's done, a 4th guy comes in and lays down the voice. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course they dub him because that's how we get like Corey Feldman and Brian Toshi and Josh Pays and all that. And I can't think of his name, but cousin Oliver,
Right.
all
Exactly. Robbie Rist.
Robbie Rist.
So,
yeah.
So what's happening is when you're doing the first unit, when the actor turtles are working, it's a combination of the actor turtle who's basically doing the bodysuit work, and then the puppeteer off camera who's working the face. The puppeteer actually had headphones on with lasers on it that pointed to the upper lip, the chin, and their cheekbone. So when one of the puppeteers would go, "Hey, dude, what's up?" those lasers would pick up the motion, send it via remote control to a pack that was underneath the shell. A cable went up the back of the head, and that would operate all the servos in the head, and the head would go. So inside the suit, the actor had headphones and a microphone, and the puppeteer had headphones and a microphone. So as I'm Raphael, my puppeteer was David Greenaway, an English guy. Well, David Greenaway is the one saying all the lines for Raphael. So he's like, "Leo, come on, man. We've got to go down in the sewers. Cowabunga, dudes." So if you were to actually hear on set what the turtles sounded like, they mostly had English accents. And
It would have been great to hear him talk to David Warner like that. Yeah.
So what's happening inside is we had spent a month rehearsing together before the movie ever started filming. And we did interesting things. We would get together with the puppeteers. We would put on the turtle heads, and we would literally play kids games. We would play games like charades, or we would do improv. And we had to start working so that our bodies and our movements and our motions were in tandem with what the puppeteer was saying. And it's not a simple process. People would be like, "Oh, you just walk around." But no, you have to be able to look the right way, look at the right characters, do the right things, create emotion up and down, and do all this stuff to create for two people to create one character. So to answer your question in a long way, sometimes some of the actors, like I believe Leif Tilden, who played Donatello, I believe he said all his lines out loud with his mouth at the same time as his puppeteer. But what was recorded on the soundtrack was actually the puppeteer's voice, and that what was dubbed in later on.
Nice. So then they're the ones who are kind of interacting with like Paige Turco and Ernie Raines in the Secret of the Ooze and all that, because it's just always kind of interesting on how this movie magic works. And I'm so fascinated by the Henson Company and everything there. You can't see, but I've got like a huge Fraggle Rock display and all that. So I'm a huge fan of the Dark Crystal. So I was so impressed by that one scene that you said where you saw Jim Henson just walk through, and you described him as kind of like a religious figure, and I'm like, I would be the same way. I imagine the whole set just gets reverent and all that, and just everyone's like, "Shh, it's him,"
Yeah, he showed up on set one day in North Carolina. Unfortunately, he passed away not too long after the first movie was finished being filmed. But he just walked onto the set, and during that movie, I was involved with the action and stunt unit. So there wasn't a lot of time to interact with him. I just experienced his presence one time when he came on the set. And yeah, you're right. When he walked on, this is a guy that I grew up with, and he sounds like Kermit the Frog, and he sounds like Ernie from Bert and Ernie. And there he is in all his majestic glory. And like so many great artists who have changed the world in a certain way, there's a charisma and an energy that radiates around them. And he has that. And, and when he walked, you felt it, and you looked and you were in awe. He was an amazing guy, even for the short, brief few moments that I got to experience him. So I felt that same way when I experienced Clint Eastwood in the parking lot of a grocery store in Los Angeles.
Really? Wow.
Yeah, real quick. This is a true story. I'm walking down I parked my car. I'm walking into a grocery store on Laurel Canyon Boulevard in Los Angeles, and I stop dead in my tracks because I feel something. And I turn around purposely and look over my shoulder, and 25, 30 feet behind me, it's Clint Eastwood getting out of a car, and he's walking in the parking lot right behind me. And I was like, wow. So then I just followed him around the grocery store and saw when he picked up cheese, I would go pick up the cheese. Oh, look at that.
You're like, wow, this is great. I I don't know. He's someone where it's like it's funny because there's a little comparison I would make with you to Clint Eastwood here. You did direct a movie about snipers, right? So there is that. You're a writer, director yourself. I was just looking up your filmography and all that before we had started, and I saw you've got is it Dear Mom, Adventures of Johnny Tao, and Better Never Than Late, which is a fantastic title. So but directing, having that sort of experience, would you qualify yourself, or would you call yourself a creative person?
Oh, absolutely. My whole life is about creativity. Yeah, born of imagination. Everything I do, I work in advertising and marketing now. I create television and radio commercials. I write music. So yes, I consider myself a very creative individual.
Nice. What do you play? Because you mentioned in the book about possibly being in a band, but I didn't pick up on what you were playing.
Oh yeah, I've played in sort of garage bands since I was in high school. So I play guitar, bass, and drums.
Oh, nice, cool. So
yeah.
Did you ever have like what would you say was like your style of music in garage bands? Were you metal, like hair, prog rock?
We used to call it my big band was a band in Los Angeles called Birthday Suit, and we used to play up and down the Sunset Strip. We packed out the House of Blues and the Viper Room and all that kind of stuff. And what we used to call it was groove rock. It was a mixture of like Lenny Kravitz meets kind of Southern rock, a little bit influences.
That's pretty cool. Yeah, it sounds like it's got a little funk edge to it. I like it.
Yeah,
a good bass beat. Yeah.
My nickname in the band was Funk Fu.
Oh, nice. Did you do kicks on stage like David Lee Roth? Yeah.
I actually wore a full silk Chinese robe with a sash tied around and everything. Yeah.
That sounds comfortable. It was awesome. In comparison to a foam latex suit and all that, I imagine that has to be. So
yes, my balls could breathe.
Yeah.
So and Eric, I just got to say, there's this one part in the book that you're gonna love when he starts talking about how they're putting plaster of Paris on his junk, and then you're gonna dig that part, man. It's pretty funny.
Yep.
I know you had a couple of questions, man.
Yeah, I was kind of curious. I'm not gonna lie, about like the suits, because I've watched the behind the shells, the VHS of the turtles and stuff, and I know that you guys, had the heads off and all that stuff, so that way you can, cool down, breathe, and all that. About like how much weight do you think you lost by throughout the whole movie wearing those suits? Because I know for me, I have. Did a couple boxing matches, and I had to lose some weight, and doing like the whole sauna suit type thing. I mean, how much weight did you lose throughout this whole process? Doing this, I mean, I know it took a toll on your body.
Yeah, it was actually physically, it was very demanding. Ultimately, when it comes to weight loss, you're talking about water weight because you're just sweating it out. You're sweating all day long. Yeah. We probably sweat anywhere from 6 to 10 pounds out per day. But then at the end of each day, you're drinking Gatorade and orange juice and water, and it just comes right back. And then the next day, you sweat out another 6 to 10 pounds. So it was really important for us not to lose any weight, but to keep consuming the calories and the liquids to replace that. Dehydration was a big issue for us. A lot of the guys suffered nosebleeds because the inside of their noses would crack from getting dehydrated. You never, during the day, people are like, how do you go to the bathroom in that suit? Very rarely did you have to go to the bathroom, especially to pee, because there was no liquid in your body. You were just sweating it all out. So it wasn't that frequent that you really had to worry about that. So in between scenes sometimes, and we'd be wearing that head for, once they started rolling camera, you might be inside the head for an hour and a half or 2 hours at a stint. Wow. It could be 20 minutes, but it might be 2 hours. By the time you take that thing off, man, you've been breathing your own carbon dioxide this whole time. You're sweating like crazy. You can barely see. So we had oxygen tanks standing by, and you actually had to, like a football player, get on the oxygen tank and start breathing and, try and keep yourself together. So yeah, a lot of water weight, a lot of dehydration. a lot of illness too.
Would you do it again?
That's crazy.
No, I would not do it again.
So yeah, at this age, you wouldn't get back in it for like a reunion or.
If I got in a turtle suit now, I'd probably have a heart attack.
It's funny because there's a lot of people that cosplay this now, and like the technology has changed with like the things that they use and all that. But these guys are essentially doing this for free, and it's like they're putting themselves through like kind of a similar situation. And it's like, yeah, I don't know if that's for me either. I don't know if I can handle that.
I will say this: there are some cosplay suits out there, and I don't care if you're wearing a French fry suit in front of a fast food place or a animal costume you got off of Amazon. Any costume work that you're inside, you sweat your ass off. But nobody can experience what it's like to be in an actual Ninja Turtle movie costume without being in an actual Ninja. I don't care. I've seen all the cosplay suits out there, and they're hot, sweaty rubber contraptions. But when you put on a form-fitted foam latex suit with a computer pack underneath it and all the cables and the wires, and you got 65 pounds of stuff weighing you down, man. That's one of the times on I believe it was the second movie, we were standing there. We were sitting down, actually. They had to build us special chairs. A turtle can't sit in a chair because you got a shell on your back. So they had to build us these things that look like sawhorses, and you straddle it like a horse, and they built a little shelf in front so you can lean forward and put your arms forward. So we're in between scenes, and all four of us are like just laying forward, just sweating, red-faced. I mean, we've been working, puffing and puffing. And through the set comes the movie publicist. And the movie publicist is getting a tour to a journalist of some kind from some Hollywood magazine or something. And the journalist was a woman, and she seemed, what I will say for lack of a better word, a little hoity-toity in her appearance, the way she was kind of walking around the set. And I heard her turn to the publicist after she looked at us in our sweaty misery. She turned to the publicist and said under her breath, "They think they got it bad. The Swamp Thing, now he had it bad." And I was like, boy, the Swamp Thing must have sucked ass, because this feels pretty bad. But apparently the Swamp Thing went through some hell.
Wow. Yeah. That Roger Corman classic, right? The first one with Adrienne Barbeau, and the second one had Heather Locklear in it.
Yep.
That's crazy. Yeah. I mean, there's some great stories in this book. I'm going to really recommend that any listener go out and check this out. The Teenage Ninja Mutant Turtle Becoming the Reel Raphael. I really like the idea that you got these friendships with a lot of people who there was a language barrier, there was like a cultural barrier, and it's just like you come across as such like a friendly and welcoming fellow. And it's really nice to see that, because it's like when you're reading a Hollywood memoir or something like that, it's like, all right, you're trying to get ahead, but you're not stepping on anyone to get there, which is a really cool sort of way to see that you did it. Really makes us root for you,
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Part of my approach to everything and Ninja stuff is because of my martial arts background. It seems like, hey, is our connection okay, fellas?
Yeah, it's doing okay.
Yeah.
Okay. My martial arts background, and inherent in martial arts and the code of Bushido and all that is honor and truth and all that stuff, and everything that really made me want to be a movie action hero in the first place. I wanted to represent those values because they were so important to me. It's one of the reasons Captain America is my favorite superhero of all time. He's literally like an American knight, so I love that guy. So that was kind of the way I went about everything I did. Sometimes I did a lot of stuff, as is apparent in the book, with a lot of naivete and ignorance involved, and didn't know what to do. But I always tried to do what I thought was right and treat people the way, I would want to be treated. I will say that's not necessarily the way it works in Hollywood, though. Nice guys often finish last in that paradigm. And had I been a little bit more of a jerk in some ways, and I don't mean to the people that we're talking about on Ninja Turtles and the people I befriended, but just moving forward earlier on, if I had learned to sort of cover my butt a little bit more and watch out for myself, who knows what could have happened? Because as will happen, fellas, I'm writing a second book right now about my continuing adventures in Hollywood after Ninja Turtles, and it's about starring in the movie Showdown and then directing the movie Adventures of Johnny Dow, and all the sort of wacky ninja adventures I had to go on to make those things come true too. Again, if I had probably maybe acted a little bit more with a lot more self-interest, maybe I could have accomplished some more things, but just wasn't in my nature. So here we are hanging out together. It's awesome.
Well, since you brought it up, the movie Showdown, right? You co-star with Billy Blanks, who the listeners will know Billy Blanks as the creator of Tybo. So,
Yes.
what was it like getting this role? Like, this seems like your dream come true from the beginning of the book. Just, I want to be an action star. I want to do martial arts and all that. What's it like achieving that?
It is, there's no words to describe it other than saying it's a dream come true. And I could go on and espouse it. You know, what happened with Ninja Turtles was I had set my goal when I was 13 years old to be an action hero in the movies.
But that was interesting to hear about Vanilla Ice, though.
Yeah, I thought that would be funny. You know?
Yeah. Like I'm learning like all kinds of new stuff. I'm like, you know what's crazy though is that after me and my wife got married, we said I do.
Yeah.
That song was played was Go Ninja, Go Ninja.
Oh, no
Go.
kidding.
Yeah. It was literally like after we said that, and she had that for me saying Go Ninja, Go Ninja, Go. So
We got you back, Ken.
Yep. Sorry about that, fellas.
That's okay. Someone's probably playing Fortnite or something. So,
All right. Where were we?
I just got the look
talking about
of death.
Showdown.
Talking about Showdown, right?
Yep.
So here I was. I became a ninja right out of college. That was my dream come true. Even just being an extra in the Ninja Turtle movies. I was like, I'm on my way. This is it. So I did Ninja Turtles. It was a huge step. But really what happened when I got to Los Angeles after Ninja Turtles is it didn't matter. I was inside a rubber suit. So aside from being like an interesting talking point, it wasn't really a high quality acting resume piece. If I wanted to do more suit work, it would have been interesting, but I didn't want to do suit work. I wanted to be Jean-Claude Van Damme. So I went through all the stuff that I did, pulling all the ninja tricks and things I could, and eventually got a deal with Imperial Entertainment, who made Lionheart with Jean-Claude Van Damme and Nemesis with Olivier Gruner. And they brought me in and they talked to me about this movie they had called Double Dragon, based on the original video game. And
Oh my God.
And they gave me all the comic books and everything. And they said, oh, we're interested in you playing one of the brothers in the Double Dragon movie. And I'm like, this is awesome. So before they could get Double Dragon all ready to go, they decided, all right, we're going to do a 2-picture kind of thing. We're going to start with this one movie that we're going to create for you called Showdown. So they created Showdown. They brought in Billy Blanks, who was awesome, because I was an unknown. They could not sell a movie on Kenn Scott's name. Didn't matter that I was a Ninja Turtle. But Billy Blanks had a big following in the international market and had done a lot of movies, King of the Kickboxers and TC 2000 and all that. So Billy Blanks was to make the movie sellable. And so there was a known factor. So they created Showdown. Well, here I am, fresh off Ninja Turtles, not too long. I've got a movie company that makes Jean-Claude Van Damme movies, writing a script specifically for me. I mean, they wrote the script. The main character's name is Ken and Billy. And the writer wrote it that way just because he wanted to think in his mind who the actors were. But then when they went to make the film, nobody ever bothered to find and replace Ken with David or Mark or Stan or whatever. So they just left it in. So I got to be Ken. Billy got to be Billy. We made the movie like that. And that was like the most awesome thing I could possibly imagine. It was Billy Blanks and Kenn Scott starring in Showdown. And I was working out and had my abs ripped and the whole thing. And this was my Jean-Claude Van Damme moment. It was great. So how was the experience? It was the greatest experience of my life. I had Hollywood making a Kenn Scott feature action film. So when I was 13, that's what I wanted to do. And here I was at 24, 20, I don't even remember right now, 25 years old, and it was happening. So it was awesome.
So then whatever happened with Double Dragon, because they wasn't it Scott Wolf that ended up getting that with was it Mark DeCostos?
Yep.
So
yeah. They had, I wasn't in the room, so I can't say why it happened, what happened, but Scott Wolf was famous from Party of Five. He was a known commodity. Mark DeCostos had his own following, and Mark already had a relationship with these producers. And so just when the second movie rolled around, it was time to do it, Scott Wolf became a better name to get involved with Mark DeCostos. So you win some, you lose some.
Wow, what an absolute misstep, because have you seen that movie?
Yeah, it actually bankrupted the company.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
They were supposed to spend $8 million on it, and I think when all is said and done, they spent almost 30 on it.
It's crazy too, because you've got Alyssa Milano, you've got Robert Patrick is in it, Andy Dick is in it as a weatherman. You know, it's just it's a little out there, and I'm like, wow. Now, if I think like, what if we had you in it? That would be such a better movie.
Well, I appreciate that, but that movie might have been beyond hope.
Well, I mean, maybe you could have helped with some of the suit work or something too, and like telling them this would look a little bit more realistic than this guy with this weird head. You know, who knows? But it's a guilty pleasure. I watched it maybe 6 months ago. You know, it's you know, there's some interesting choices in clothing in the early 90s and stuff. It's like, all right, it's kind of fun to watch, and it's got like that Ninja Turtles hideout vibe. You know. Right. Oh, that's a good question. That there's some really good sets that they had on this. Did you ever get to hang out in like any of those warehouse sets or anything? Or the turtle, like what were those like to be in?
Well, it looks cool on film. It's miserable in person.
It is miserable. See, that's what we want to know. We want to know that they're miserable and they're leaky and they're cold. And, you know. Well,
when you're talking about like the warehouse where the shredder has his headquarters and all the kids are skateboarding and all that stuff, that was an abandoned cement factory.
No kidding.
Just outside of Wilmington, North Carolina. Well, when you're looking for a comfortable setting, an abandoned cement factory 12 hours a day for several days in a row is not the most comfortable place to work. It's literally an abandoned cement factory. So there's no places to do anything. So we were just, you know, they got pop-up tents to keep the sun off you in the summer of North Carolina. And you just got folding plastic chairs to sit around in all day. And then when you go inside the warehouse, the area, it's not like, you know, you're literally playing on the skateboard tracks or anything like that. It's just all set. And all the actors are doing whatever they're supposed to do, or the extras in their place. And they fill the whole thing with smoke to create that sort of dark environment. So overall, it was a horribly uncomfortable, hot, smoky environment. And, you know, the turtles' lair and all that stuff, same thing, man. Once you're in these turtle suits and you're on a sound stage and they're just pumping it full of smoke and all this stuff, when you take off your turtle head, you've got black dirt just all around your eyes. You look like a raccoon and everything. It was, you know, I think it was Madeline Kahn, the actress. Somebody once asked her, is it fun to make movies? And she said, you know, it's like Twinkies. It's fun to eat Twinkies. It's not fun to work at the Twinkie factory. It's hard work, you know? So that's not me to bitch. I mean, it's working on movies is exciting and awesome. When you're into it and you live for it like I did, even being in an abandoned cement factory is a joy because you're making movies. You're not, you know, breaking rocks in the hot sun or serving coffee to people or something. So it's awesome, but it's not easy. It's hard work. It's very uncomfortable. It's long, long hours. By the end of the days, you're exhausted. So especially when you're in a turtle suit, you know, it's crazy.
Did you find that by the time you got to do Showdown that they started treating you a little bit differently? Like maybe not like to the extent of Vanilla Ice, but what about like did you get that star treatment where they treating you as the lead?
Well, yes, I definitely got it. But, you know, you're talking about Showdown, which is less than a $2 million movie. It's not like it was a big studio movie or anything. This was in the heyday of independent martial arts action films that would go to Cinemax and HBO and VHS and all that kind of stuff. So yes, I did get that. Like, for instance, I really worked out and trained hard to be in Showdown. I got my body fat percentage down to 5.3. I was shredded like a magazine athlete. So on the set, I was able to request, I was a pesco vegetarian at the time, by the way. So everybody else got certain catering, but I had special catering that was done for me. Like the chef would make special fish and vegetables without the butter and everything, so I could keep my physique going for the movie. So I had my own trailer on that movie, So yes, I got the minimal. When you're in the Screen Actors Guild, there's a certain minimal level of stuff that you get. There's a minimum weekly paycheck that you get. You have to get a trailer. You can only work so many days so many hours in a day until you go into overtime. You have to eat a meal every 6 hours. But so there's all these rules to make sure that they don't drive you like cattle to make a movie. And so just getting the Screen Actors Guild minimum stuff as the star of the movie was better than I'd ever been treated in my life.
That's great.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
Amazing. Yeah.
Did you get to work out with Billy Blanks at all?
We didn't spend too much time working out. We spent a couple of days together just going through some of the scenes for training that's in the movie and working together to come up with ideas about what to do, like him throwing the basketballs at me and stuff like that, and then us running up the mountain with a sack of rocks on my back. So we got together a little bit and did a little bit of, I don't want to call it sparring because we didn't spar, but moving around, just like you see in Showdown, you see Billy Blanks training me. Basically, Showdown, for those that don't know, is like the poor man's Karate Kid. I play a Ralph Macchio character who moves to a new town, falls in love with the beautiful blonde girl, gets beat up by her karate boyfriend, and instead of learning karate from Mr. Miyagi, I learned it from Billy Blanks, who's the janitor at the high school because he used to be a cop and killed somebody, and now he's just working his way through life. So I help him redeem himself, and he helps me redeem. It's Karate Kid all over again. But doing I forget my point. I just started wailing on about karate, about what that was. Huh. Well, I just talked myself into a corner, fellas. Yeah.
No, you good.
I don't remember what that was about, but it was about it was about Showdown, which is the poor man's Karate Kid. It was on. I got treated well, and I forgot your question, so sorry.
It's okay. I mean, I was just listening. It's pretty funny. I went off into a weird thing, and I'm like, is that kind of like Roadhouse? No, it's not like Roadhouse because there's no Karate Kid aspect of that. So I got lost somewhere too, but that's awesome. With this, after that, you moved on to another one, and this one with the legendary Cynthia Rothrock, Sworn to Justice. And in this one, you worked with some really, really big names, including Walter Koenig from Star Trek. Were you a Star Trek fan growing up?
I was not a fan of I was not a fan. Like, I did not like it. And when I was a little kid, I actually had a blue Dr. McCoy Star Trek shirt, and my brother had the yellow Captain Kirk shirt. And so we used to play Star Trek, and we'd set up a chair and all that kind of stuff and everything and act like we were on the ship. So I was aware of it. And as a kid, I sort of participated and played in it. But then when I was older, especially right around the time of Showdown, I got hooked on Star Trek Next Generation with Jean-Luc Picard. So I was all about Next Generation, man. That and the X-Files. I learned about those two shows while I was training for Showdown, because that's all I could do is eat, work out, and then watch TV for an hour or two and then go to bed. And those were the shows that caught me. I loved them.
You know that they've both crossed over with the Ninja Turtles. So they made Ninja Turtles out of like Star Trek characters. So they made figures of those. But there was a comic that they did maybe 2009 or something, maybe after that. But it was the Turtles crossover with the X-Files, and it was the Lone Gunman. And it's pretty cool.
Who was in the Star Trek one? Who was Raphael? Do you remember?
He was Scotty, I think. I think he was Scotty. Yeah,
because Scotty wore red. Okay. Yeah, I recently saw Sting, the wrestler. He and I go to shows sometimes.
Oh, nice.
And there's an action figure that's Sting and Raphael mixed together.
Oh, that's so cool.
But yeah,
Oh,
Sworn to Justice, man, that was chock full of so many like known actors. Mako was
Yep.
in it, who's in so many things. Walter Koenig was in it.
Mako actually played Splinter in the 2007 film. I think it was the film that came out right after he passed, but he played Master Splinter. You might know Mako as, would you call him like the magician or the wizard from Conan the Barbarian?
Yes, that's exactly what I would call him. Yeah, the
Yep.
wizard. Yeah.
He's-
So yeah, that and Kurt McKinney from No Retreat, No Surrender.
Yes. I was telling Eric about this movie because I watched it recently. I think this was like Jean-Claude Van Damme's first time on screen or something like that. And he's fighting what Kurt McKinney, who looks like, like this guy that just comes into the gym and all that and is fighting. And I'm like, dude, this movie is bonkers. It was so nuts.
Yeah, that was Jean-Claude's first appearance on screen. He's actually an extra in, I think it's Breakin' 2 Electric Boogaloo.
That's a good movie.
There's a scene where everybody's kind of dancing on a basketball court and he's standing behind him in a unitard and he's kind of doing his little Jean-Claude dance that he does.
I've seen that GIF. Yeah. And I know he started out as the Predator too, the similar circumstance to yourself in like a hot rubber suit. But, I don't think they were definitely on a jungle soundstage though.
Yeah, I don't think he ever made it to the Predator. I think he was in consideration for being part of it and something didn't work. And, he couldn't fit in this. Because the Predator was a big dude. Yeah.
Jean-Claude was my guy growing up. I never really got into the Steven Seagal stuff, but just like for martial art, it's like, I mean, I could watch Hard Target. I could watch, Double Team, any of those. Like that was my jam. So, and then years later, when I ran a Blockbuster, so people would ask me, they're like, "Oh, what's good to watch?" And I'm like, "Have you seen Double Impact?" No, okay.
That's one of my
Blood
favorite.
Sport.
Yeah, Bloodsport. Double Impact is one of my
Bloodsport's my favorite.
Yeah, Bloodsport, Lionheart with Rudy Ray Moore. Come on, So going back to this, like we were talking a little bit about this. You mentioned Captain America. What's your take on cinema now? Like your whole Marvel movement and like DC and stuff like that. Do you get really into this, or are you kind of over that whole part of your life?
No, there's a lot of it, growing up and as I was working through my career, if any action movie came out, whether on video or theaters, I was there. I was all about it. Now I'm in my 50s, and to be honest, I really don't care anymore. There's so many people doing so many amazing things, and the way the Chinese film industry has come up, and the effects and cinematography and everything they're able to bring, and the meshing of those two, with the Matrix and Yuen Wu Ping doing all that choreography and direction with those guys. So it's gotten to the point now where everything's amazing. Everybody's really, really good. And whether you're watching Donnie Yen or the Matrix people or whatever, they can make almost anybody look fantastic doing their stuff. So everything's so hyper real now that I think I've become a little desensitized to a lot of stuff. Back in the days when I was doing it, it was like, man, these guys went to Thailand and they kicked the shit out of each other while they're making these movies, and it's real and it's visceral and it's all this kind of stuff. Plus now, I'm seeking out entertainment through literature and movies and that with a little bit deeper bent than some of that stuff, but I still love a great action movie. Like I just saw, Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, No Way Home.
But when it comes to the Marvel movies, the first and original MCU series that they just completed, that starts with, as far as I'm concerned, I think it's Iron Man, which I think is the greatest superhero movie ever made at this point. I just think it's the best film made. I hate saying that because Captain America is my guy. And I think Captain America is right up there, but it's not as good as that first Iron Man. Something about when that first Iron Man happened, Jon Favreau put together such a piece that it deserved what it was and what it became. And it gave birth to all these other things that we're seeing and doing now. So I rode that whole Marvel Universe thing and loved it. I love the Ant-Man movies. I love all things Captain America. I love Iron Man. The Avengers were good. The Avengers started to do that thing where every movie it had to be as big as it could. In every movie, it seemed like the sky opened up and a bunch of a million things were coming in to destroy the earth, and the Avengers had to stop it. It started to feel like that was just repeating itself after a while. So I've become desensitized to it a little bit. But for instance, this Tom Holland, I think, is doing a fabulous job as Spider-Man, and the movies they've made, and now this third one with all the things that it does and the tricks and tips and all the stuff that it brings out of the Spider-Verse, I think is awesome. So I'm still into it. I'm still a Captain America guy in my heart. I still like to look at comics every once in a while. I mean, I don't buy comics now. I don't read them or anything. But every once in a while, when I'm at Comic-Con, I will stop and I'll go to like the dollar comic bin or something, and I'll just pick out 3 or 4 random things that I might have used to read, like Master of Kung Fu or The Punisher.
Oh,
or
yeah.
something. I'll grab 3 or 4, and while I'm in that town that weekend, back at the hotel, I'll just go through some of the old comic books from my heyday, which is, the 80s and basically the 80s, really. So I do like that stuff. I'm into it. I don't follow it as closely as I used to, though.
Do you read the Turtles like in your past? You just said you're not reading now, but are you familiar with anything like The Last Ronin or anything that's going on?
I'm familiar with it, but no, my entire Turtle experience is from behind the mask. I had heard of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because of my martial arts background when the movie came out. But I mean, when the movie was first being made, but I didn't know anything from anybody. When I was on the set of the movie, I would be like, "Who's that?" And somebody would be like, "Oh, that's April O'Neil." And I'm like, "Who's April O'Neil?" And they're like, "Oh, she's like Lois Lane to the Turtles." I'm like, "Who's that?" "Oh, that's Casey Jones. He's like their friend." And so I learned who all the Ninja Turtles and the characters were based on working on the movie. Since the movies, I don't have one single Raphael or Ninja Turtle thing in my house. I don't have Funk Pops. I don't have anything. I don't wear, Raphael shirts or anything like that. I go to cons all the time. I represent. I do it. I love it. I get fan art. I have 1 or 2 pieces of fan art on my wall. But outside of that, no, I don't. I saw the 2011 animated movie TMNT, and I thought it was really good. I think that's the one with Mako.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Right.
And Chris Evans, who played Captain America, played Casey Jones in that.
Oh, no kidding. Chris Evans?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, right on. I never saw the Michael Bay movies, not because I'm sour grapes about it, because anytime anything Ninja Turtle comes out, it's good for everybody in the Ninja Turtle world and family. Every time a new Ninja Turtle thing comes out, at one point during that period of time, thousands of people around the world turn to their friend on the couch and go, I met Raphael once. And it's like, so there's always good juju out in the universe when Ninja Turtle stuff comes out. But as a film fan, I am not a fan of Michael Bay work. And so when I saw the Turtles and I saw these sort of giant, inflated, steroid-induced kind of, things, it didn't appeal to my sensibility anyway. So I just never had a desire to go see them. I don't need to go see it to compare it to the old ones. I know that it's just another Michael Bay movie. So,
the classics. I mean, me personally, they'll never get topped. I mean, I know they're coming out with like 4 different kind of movies coming up here soon in the next couple of years.
Oh yeah,
what they're talking about.
Was it Seth Rogen films and all that?
Oh yeah,
Seth Rogen, the guys from Saturday Night Live, are working on a live action. I know they're talking about the rise of TMNT, and I think it's 3 or 4. I can't remember if there is a 4th one or not, but I mean I'm sorry, it'll never top the first two movies. And
I think that's like what we were talking about before, Eric. It's, there's something visceral and real about the first 2.
Yeah.
You literally can reach out and touch the turtle. It's not a computer generated one that looks really great. It's a real guy in a real suit there in the moment.
Yeah.
And so many great things came together with the Jim Henson puppet Tektronix. That was the most advanced animatronics for any movie thing ever in Ninja Turtles. So all that stuff that came together, Steve Barron, who's a visionary director, a lot of people don't know this, but the director of the first Ninja Turtle film was a visionary music video director. He directed the Billie Jean music video with Michael Jackson. He directed Dire Straits, the animated Money for Nothing video. And he directed one of the most famous videos of all time, besides those two, which is the video by the band Aha for the song Take On Me, where the guy's turning into a comic book and then turning into real life. So he did all that, and he directed The Storyteller for Jim Henson.
I love
they
that.
They found this really interesting guy.
That's awesome.
That put together this first movie that was dark and kind of weird, and he didn't cast it with like, you know, Hollywood classic good looking, you know, just actors. He put in these interesting, like Judith Hoag is beautiful, but she's not like your classical leading lady. And Elias Koteas, who plays Casey Jones, he's like a legitimate thespian. He's not just some muscle guy, you know, that was hired, who's a former wrestler to sell tickets. So
yeah.
Steve, he really put together this amazing movie for that first one to launch everything, you know, that was spawned from that.
It's so funny because I was like, this didn't even come into my head. It didn't even occur to me when you had said that the Turtles don't hit anyone with their weapons, don't use their weapons at all in the second movie. And I just keep going back. And when anybody asks me, they're like, which is your favorite? I always go to Secret of the Ooze. That's the one that I have the emotional connection to. That's the one that it's like, I'm like, I'll watch this 100 times. I don't even care. You know, the first one's so dark and gritty. And I think the big difference for me is you've got Kino versus Danny, and I could not relate to Danny. So I was just like, maybe that's the difference. But I don't know. I just love those.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk out there, you know. Danny, again, that's why the first movie's so weird. Danny is like this, he's not just some lovable, cute kid. He's kind of a weird, you know, kid. And,
another outcast.
And the way he's dressed in a Sid Vicious t-shirt and stuff like that. You know, in the first movie, the guy, you know, Sam Rockwell, it's his first job in any Hollywood movies. He's offering the kids cigarettes. That would never happen in Secret of the Ooze.
Definitely not.
You know? Secret of the Ooze was a kid's movie. They replaced Casey Jones with Kino because Kino was a kid and kids could identify with the pizza guy. It allowed kids to put themselves into the movie. In the first one, there was nobody to do that. So they did things like, you know, became more cartoonish with Toka and Razar and all that kind of stuff out there. So there was a change tonally over the first three movies that happened because of the different approach by the producers, the money that they did or did not want to spend, and the three different directors as well.
That's awesome. Now, Ken, I know we could probably ask you 1,000 questions, but I know we're getting short on time, just as you are. I want to thank you so much for joining us. Eric, did you have anything else that you wanted to say? You've certainly answered a ton of my questions. I just want to mention, everybody check out Teenage Ninja to Mutant Turtle, Becoming the Reel Raphael by Kenn Scott. And I'll let you wrap it up here, Eric.
Yeah, I mean, you answered, like, I had a line of questions here to ask you, and you answered most of them and everything. But, you know, I'm going to be honest with you. It is an honor to meet you. I'm a big Raphael fan. Justin knows it. And, you know, it's definitely an honor to meet you, to get to know you and get to know how you become Raph, and as well as like more of the history of the Turtles, and as well as your background too. And like, I greatly appreciate you coming on here and, you know, taking your time out to be a part of this. Thank you very much.
Well, I really appreciate that, man. Thanks a lot, Eric and Justin. It's good to be here with you guys. I love telling the stories and sharing them. It's been a little over 30 years now doing it. I can't say enough. If the people out there listening to us are true fans of the movies, they should check out the book. You can go to turtleconfessions.com. And at turtleconfessions.com, I made all kinds of videos talking about being on the movie. There's photos you can download. There's all kinds of cool stuff. And then there's a link right to Amazon where the book is only $10. It's $9.99. So it's cheaper than a movie ticket, but it's a lot of fun. I can't recommend it enough to people who are real Ninja Turtle movie fans. I wrote it for them, for us, for you guys, because you don't often get a chance to sit with a Ninja Turtle and ask all these questions and find out the secrets and what went on. So luckily I was the first to do it. I've tried to put that in the book, and share so much and even more so that people would have a really good time reading it. So it seems to be a success. Check out turtleconfessions.com. Check out the book. I guarantee you'll enjoy it.
Do you have any appearances coming up or anything like that for 2022?
Yeah, I'm going to be, the next one I know about is I'm going to be in South Carolina on, I think it's April 9th and 10th. I'll be in Greenville at the SC Comic Con. I know I'm going to be in Atlanta, Georgia in June for the Ranger Pop and Stop, or Ranger Stop and Pop. And then there's a couple more coming up. But again, on the website, turtleconfessions.com, that stuff is usually available. It needs
Perfect.
to be updated. Yeah.
Okay. On that note, we'll take a break and we will come back afterwards. Thank you, Mr. Kenn Scott.
Thanks, guys. Cowabunga, you dudes.
All right, and we are back. It's Justin and Eric here, just coming down after our interview with Mr. Kenn Scott, who was the actor playing Raphael in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles 1 and 2, and also the fellow Chucker, eh? So, what do you think, man? Pretty exciting to get to talk to one of your childhood heroes, and I mean, just the experiences that he was able to share with us about the film industry. That was really great.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting because, you know, one fact that I didn't really know about him was that, you know, all the like main action scenes of the Foot Soldier where he was jumping down the axe and, you know, him, I knew about the chucking thing, but like when it comes to the other stuff, I didn't know that was him. They put him in those main parts of, you know, being the Foot Soldier. He was like the main guy. You know, I mean,
it's crazy too, because like he got the job, like he said, because of his ability with the nunchucks. Like he really impressed them with that. You would think, oh, it's got to be Michelangelo, right? Nope. Well, you know, he's the one who's up against Michelangelo, and
Michelangelo, yeah. It seems like with like his story is that like he literally just started from the bottom of the barrel and rose to the top.
He's a driven man, and the coolest thing about getting to talk to him was getting to know just how he holds dear these principles of the martial arts and that way of life and all that. And I mean, it's just like it's a joy and a pleasure to get to talk to someone that's so into that culture. And I mean, he doesn't have to play at this; he is that. He is a ninja.
Yes.
You know, which is just like that was just really cool. It's like we interviewed a ninja. So
yeah. I mean, we pretty much interviewed a ninja, and it was just like with him, you know, playing the part as a Ninja Turtle. I mean, it suited him. You know, well, I guess you could take that, you know, literally, like it suited him because he
and
was
he
in
suited,
this city, you know. Yeah,
it's a good pun there. Yeah,
but you know, I mean, it was just. I don't know. I think it was destined for him to be that person.
Yeah, you know, and there's a clear progression in the book when he talks about it, and he pretty much gave us like the story of how it happened, but it's a lot more colorful in the book. So I think that after you read it and you know, for the listeners and all that, take a look at it. I tore through this thing, and I think it finished at like 1:30 a.m. and I'm like, oh man, that's awesome. I was all hyped up, and I'm like, this is just the coolest, you know. I really liked it, and I'm a big reader, so you know it's not too difficult for anyone who's listening. And you're like, I don't like to read. I'm like, it's probably like 235 pages, and it's broken down in a way where there's just little chapters, and then you kind of move on. But the nuggets that you get there are just, it's really, really great. And he had talked about this other one. For more info and fun, visit turtleconfessions.com. And I didn't even check that out. I just read through the book, and I didn't even notice that. So I'm like, geez, I got to check that out.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to look into it. I mean, you know, especially it's going to be helping, you know, sea turtles. You know, my son, he does this one little thing. We got this like bracelet for him where it helps out, you know, sea turtles and all other kind of like sea animals and stuff.
Oh, is that the one that's made from like recycled plastic?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Cool.
Yep.
That's awesome.
Yeah, my son, we got that for my son, and like one YouTuber did something, and it was something about saving the turtles too as well, and so we donated money to that too and all that. So, but It's definitely gonna be for a good cause, and I'm definitely gonna go check it out myself. I'm probably gonna read a book. I'm not a reader, and I have a feeling that I might get hooked.
I agree. And since you brought it up, it's the proceeds to benefit the Sea Turtle Conservancy. So if anyone's unfamiliar with that, the Sea Turtle Conservancy is the oldest sea turtle organization in the world, starting in 1959, and their efforts have been instrumental in saving the Caribbean green turtle from imminent extinction. So their goals are not only to save these endangered and at-risk species, but to raise awareness and increase protection for turtles around the world. So that's the Sea Turtle Conservancy, and Ken has donated a portion of the proceeds of this book to that great cause. And any turtle lover say, saving a turtle, never a bad idea. Well, we'll probably bring this one to a close. I know we're going to do a pizza recipe after this, but Eric, any thoughts for the listeners? You want to bring us home?
Bring us home. I mean, if anybody's out there listening, I mean, definitely look into this book. I mean, it's also going for a good cause too, as well. And I mean, any turtle fanatic, any turtle movie lover, just any, I'm going to get it. And so I'm hoping that other people will, and that will get it. That's anybody that's listened to this, should definitely take a look into it and do get it and help the sea turtles too.
Yeah, and it's got Raphael on it, so you can display it in your room. So
Absolutely. I mean, it'll go somewhere. I don't know where, but it'll go somewhere.
So on that note, we'll say goodbye here. We'll be right back with a pizza time, and we will check you out. Be sure to check out our face group, Epic Shells, and check us out at Epic Tales from the Sewers on wherever you can find podcasts.
Hi, this is Adam, a.k.a. Casey Jones from Casey Jones Livewire, and you're listening to Epic Tales from the Sewers. Time for a knuckle sandwich, punk.
It's pizza time.
And now, in a segment that we call Pizza Time, where we discuss any Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle or pizza-related food, I give you Pizza Time.
Okay, so pizza time today. It's not exactly pizza themed, but it is Raphael themed. And after all, this episode's all about Raphael after speaking with Kenn Scott. So today's recipe is going to be for Raph's Waffles. This makes 2 waffles. When Raphael needs a cure for the midnight munchies, he reaches for one of these bad boys. They're the perfect thing to chow down on while waiting for Bugzilla versus the Snail Monster or an Ace Duck movie marathon. Pro tip, double the recipe if you've got a Michelangelo in the house. Ingredients: 1 pound ball of pizza dough, homemade or store-bought. 1/3 cup no-cook tomato sauce or store-bought marinara, plus more for dipping. 4 thin slices of pancetta. 1/2 cup shredded low-moisture mozzarella cheese. Dried oregano. Extra virgin olive oil for brushing. Non-stick cooking spray for greasing. Lighten it up, dudes. Use the whole wheat pasta dough if you want to go a little bit lighter on this. Instructions: preheat a Belgian or other 1-inch deep waffle iron on the medium-high setting. Cut the ball of dough into 4 equal-sized pieces. Set 2 pieces aside and cover them with a damp dish towel. On a floured work surface, roll or stretch out the first 2 dough pieces to fit just inside the mold of your waffle maker. Step 4. Spread a spoonful of marinara sauce on one of the rolled out, stretched out discs and spread it out, leaving a 1-inch border of dough all around. Step 5. Place 2 slices of pancetta on top of the sauce, then half of the cheese. Sprinkle with oregano. Step 6. Brush the exposed border of dough with olive oil, and then brush some more olive oil around the perimeter of the second rolled or stretched out dough disc. Invert the naked dough disc onto the dressed one and pinch around the edges to seal. Brush the top with olive oil. Step 7. Open your waffle iron. It should be really hot by now, and coat it with a non-stick cooking spray. Carefully invert the pizza dough packet into the iron, oiled side down, and brush the top of it with more olive oil. Close the waffle iron and cook for 3 to 5 minutes or until the crust is golden brown, but is still springy to the touch. This part is loud and messy as some of the cheese sauce will bubble and ooze out of the side of the waffle iron. Step 9. When the waffle is done, remove it from the iron and repeat with the remaining dough pieces and filling. Step 10. To serve, fill a ramekin or small bowl with some marinara sauce. Cut the waffles into wedges or sticks and serve them with the sauce for dipping. Thanks everybody for your pizza time today. Raph's Waffles.
Cowabunga, dudes!
Thank you for listening to the Epic Tales from the Sewers podcast. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles were created by Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. This podcast has no affiliation with Eastman, Laird, Mirage Studios, IDW Studios, Archie Comics, or Nickelodeon Studios. This podcast is a member of the Dorkening Podcast Network. Check out thedorkening.com for other podcasts. Epic Tales from the Sewers is recorded by Justin Cooper and Eric Will. Hey there, Turtle fans. Check out BigCountryComics.com for the exclusives and variants that you're looking for. Featuring the art of Mike Ruth and Hugh Rookwood. You can find graded books, Funko Pops and figures, statues, even Big Country Comics exclusives. Books from Aftershock, Boom, Image, DC Comics, IDW, everything from Swamp Thing to Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle covers. You can get them raw, remarked, signed, even slabbed. Available at BigCountryComics.com. Don't forget, buy one, get one 50% off on graded books. And dudes, be sure to use our code EPICSHELL for an extra 15% off of your order. Check out BigCountryComics.com.
Everyone thinks because you're a zombie, you don't know good coffee. Well, they're wrong. We have very active lifestyles. It's not all wandering the countryside aimlessly or scaring passing motorists. And we all love a good cup of joe. And there's only one brew that gets my seal of approval. Deadly Grounds coffee is my guilty pleasure. Bold, robust, delicious. It's coffee that can wake the dead. With over a dozen different roasts and flavors, Deadly Grounds can satisfy the most finicky of coffee addicts. The aroma is so intoxicating. It brings all of my neighbors out of the woodwork. Deadly Grounds coffee. Coffee to die for, and zombie approved. It's good to get a little deadly. Use the front door! Oh, they're so disgusting.